Hello everybody and welcome back to more Yarn and Yore, where I tell you role-playing experiences and, tell you some funny stuff that happened during them. Last time, we're going to pick up immediately after the Goblin Scientist episode. Last time, Dark Shantae and Stella found themselves into a cave where there were an extremely smart goblin scientist was helping a dragon try to recreate the Dragonborn, trying to make dragon humanoids or whatever. And inside this lab, they found that he was experimenting on a doppelganger to try to recreate Dragonborn. And in this process, the goblin scientist escapes, but ends up having to give up a dire wolf that he had as a riding animal. And Dark Shantae he's got himself a guard drake and a dire wolf for a pet, and this was the Dark Shantae warlord miniature that went through this. But this time that they went through the mountains, they're out the other side, and they're finding themselves in this forest. Eventually they wander into this forest and they find a small fishing town. And in the small fishing town is where they ended up encountering Trent, the ranger. So they have a ranger on their team. Human ranger, elf ranger. They met a female companion named Osha. Osha violation? I don't know. That was an Eldwin, which was like super elves. It's 4th edition. It was kind of weird. Then they found another human warlord, which the character sheet does not contain the name. I think he comes back one other time. Yeah. So they eventually go into this town and they actually encounter the other adventuring party, like bargaining, like trying to haggle supplies. Like, oh, I'll sell you this sword and I'll sell you these leathers and all this. And then Osha says, can I sell them scurvy? Hello, sir. I want to sell you some scurvy. Just like, these people probably die from it with not having enough citrus. That player got so mad, she left the group. Maybe I should have played along. I wasn't trying to be so comical. I'm like, they would know about scurvy. They're not going to buy scurvy from you. Especially because, like, gold items and loot and stuff like that directly affects your character stats. Off the bat, immediately trying to haggle for money. So I'm like, no. And then she got so mad, she literally left the room. So now we're stuck with 2 warlords and a ranger in this particular town. And they're going through the town, they're talking about stuff, trying to get, where's the local tavern, where's the, local place we get food, where's the local inn, while discussing stuff. And I know this is weird. I made it where doppelgangers were like a normal race. It was just humans that knew how to shapeshift. It has a lot to do with looking at Pathfinder. Pathfinder makes doppelgangers look more human, and D&D make them look like almost ET. Like these really black ETs. Well, I looked at the Pathfinder art, so I'm like, oh, they look like normal, almost even could be confused with elves. So Dark Shantae and Stella found the mom and dad to the doppelganger that they killed, and they're like, please, have you found our daughter? She has been kidnapped. Can you please find her for us? Or like, have you any information? And they just go silent, like, oh, that's terrible. And they walk away. It's like, man, how dare you, DM, make us feel bad for poor life decisions. Remember, these are the 2 people who want to eventually become liches. And they're feeling bad for what they did to an innocent girl that they slaughtered, thinking that she was a minotaur in a maze. So it's like, hey, feel bad for what you do. Maybe you should drop the whole let's become liches subplot. But they eventually stay the night at the village. I think in like a central They have like a central hut, a community hut, and where people can sleep. So all four of these people are sleeping in the town after having a little bit of a party. They throw some gold pieces around, which the town is very thankful. Gold pieces in D&D are rather useful. You can live like on one gold piece a week or something like that. Yeah, you can live very comfortably on one gold piece a week. So adventures with all these gold in your town's pretty good. So they're sleeping, and I keep telling people, it's like, hey, go roll me some perception checks. And like 6 perception checks later, they wake up, and it's like, you hear something scurrying around. And every perception check, I'm on a separate map moving some characters. I was like, you wake up and you notice that there is a goblin looting through your bag. It's like, oh no! Yeah, the town's currently being looted by goblins. And they have to wake up and defend the town from the goblins. And like they push, there's a lot of fires because it's night and they're keeping out like wolves and stuff. They push goblins in fires, and you have a couple warlords being able to say, you get an extra movement turn, you get an extra attack. It's pretty good. You got an archer shooting. Think had some pretty good shots there. Some pretty good accurate shots. He had wild step, nimble strike, wolves, fox cunning, split the tree, which I think is where you shoot 2 arrows. So he was able to target 2 goblins at once or something like that. Then the warlords, well, of course the human warlord I don't have a name for, probably helped out the team more often, because Dark Shantae's just there being like the ringmaster at a circus with his pets. Go Gardrake! Go Dire Wolf! He's riding on the Dire Wolf. Go! And then their bite attacks, and I gave them the same boosts that they get from the monster manual. So they had like a +10 to do damage, and then they rolled a d10. And I believe the Dire Wolf actually did less damage. But, yeah. They eventually fend off the town from the goblin attack, and they go back to bed. It's like, oh man, what? And they didn't get much health back from their rest because they didn't rest all the time because goblins attacked them. And then they're talking to the villagers like, hey, you didn't tell us what's going on about these goblins. And like, well, we kind of need help. There's been these goblin raids coming from this other cave, like this other mountain range. They're going through a mountain range. So the first one they went and dealt with a white dragon, and then they went and dealt with the goblin scientist, and there is another dragon past this mountain range. So as the subplot is going on here about the dragons are waking up and they're causing mass chaos, which is pretty much the same plot of Horde of the Dragon Queen, but I did it in 4D because I'm like, okay, everyone wants to fight dragons. Let's give them an excuse to fight dragons. Well, they're beginning to hatch nefarious plots like wakening up the Dragonborn, because like I didn't know much about 3rd edition, but I knew like Dragonborn don't seem like a normal race that make common, so it's like a sub-reason why the Dragonborn are going around. It's because the dragons are starting to wage war or whatever. So they're talking. It's like, oh, so there's these goblins coming out of this cave, and it's like, okay, only goblins, huh? We should do fine with goblins. We've been dealing with goblins since the beginning. This is when a blue dragon shows up. This was the one. It was from the 3.5 edition. Yeah, so a blue dragon shows up and starts raining lightning bolts on everybody. And he's up in the air, but our archer's doing good. The archer eventually hits it to enough where it gets on the ground and starts doing claw attacks, which apparently you should never do. But that gives them the warlords and Stella enough time with the Gardrakes to eventually hit this dragon enough to bloody it. And yes, I have to health because I look at 4th edition, and I find that the HP on units are absolutely ridiculous. It's bonkers. And it was a level 6 boss enemy, so I'm like, well, let's lessen it a little bit. You only have a party of 5, and you're only like 2 level 3s, a level 2, a level 1, or something like that was how it got spread. So I'm like, okay, we trying to even it out. But like the HP on this dragon's nearly 300. So I kind of did a little math. I maybe made it 200, and then at 100 it got bloodied. Then at bloodied, I decided, well, let's cut the match. What if the dragon just goes away to his hideout to heal? So he goes up into the caves and he heals up. The units are like, oh man, we're pretty bad. I think they go get a few like healing potions or get some minor healing from the people at town. It's like, but we got to go like finish this dragon. If we leave this village now, the dragon's going to come back and get pissed. And this is probably the dragon that's got the goblin scientist making the half-breeds, the half-dragon humans, dragonborn. So we deal with him, we kind of avenge the doppelganger, if you know what I mean. That they killed, but I mean, she was imprisoned, and the reason why she shapeshift was to escape. Yeah, remember, these are the people that want to turn evil, and they're like, oh, I feel bad for this little girl. So they eventually invade the cave, and like every few turns I let the dragon gain back like 5 HP, because it was like how much time a turn takes, and how long it took them to get to the location, and stuff like that. So they eventually fight a bunch of goblins and guard drakes, which Dark Shantae is like, let me get another guard drake, right? Let me get another pet. I was like, I'm cutting you off at 2. You've had enough. Bartender says no. Trying to find where I can find, yeah, drakes. Because I dealt with a lot of green drakes. There's a green guard drake somewhere in here. Yeah, the guard drake, which was a level 2, got a +6 to attack, but it does a D8 +3. That's why the guard drake did most damage. I think in here they dealt with like the red drakes, the rage drakes, possibly, with the goblins, because the goblins were teaming up with the dragon. So this was a dragon that was fighting the kobolds and the white dragon, and they destabilized the power from defeating the white dragon. So they eventually fight their way through the cave, and they get to the dragon that's trying to heal up. And yet again, in a cave, dragons have less flight abilities, so it's on the ground, and they eventually kick it into the corner, which is definitely a thing that I have an issue with. It did definitely get a lot of lightning breaths, but I believe Stella had like a resistance because she spec'd into lightning breath or something like that with her dragonborn, so she had resistance. I believe the human warlord had to like back out of the cave to heal because he took way too much damage during that fight. I think so did the archer. So eventually it's like, okay, we're too wounded. You hold it up, since they were level 3, and the dragon was already damaged. They already fought it once, and I just split up the fight to try to even out the difficulty rating. If you split up the fight and let them start with less HP because they currently fought, I would like that. I would like to do a campaign like that, fighting a giant worm through different stages through a cave with lower units to make it feel epic that you finally defeated it. But so at one point, I think a lot to do with the guard drakes and the dire wolf, because that means they had like a party of 7. I believe they eventually killed that blue dragon, just knocked it to the curb. I think it was a young blue dragon. That's kind of stronger than what it should have been. think I lowered it. Yeah, young. Is there like juvenile? New. Oh, the Draco Lich that they wanted to be, but yeah. So they eventually slay the dragon, and the village is saved, and I guess that's where the game ended. Is once the boss was defeated, they were just happy. They looted stuff, and I believe they got like a dragon skull off of them because Dark Shantae's like, I'm gonna become a Draco Lich. Yeah, he's pulled 2 teeth. He's peeled back the hide of some of these dragons. He's taken the eyeballs. He took the eyeballs out of this one. Yeah, and remember that Stella still has the magic horn from Freed. But she didn't feel like she needed to particularly deal with it. Yeah, there's like even notes about the small north village and how he made a promise to the townspeople to save the day. So eventually, yeah, they knocked out the blue dragon, and they eventually moved on to other adventures. Guess themselves, because the other guys didn't like how long a D&D campaign, just a game would go on. But yeah, that was them dealing with the blue dragon. This was really Jones for another Yarn and Yore. It kind of ends a little flat, but next time, let's see what other problems they can deal with. Relic Jones, signing out. Peace.